All right, welcome back to the shop. Just got back from the Nats, and overall had a pretty good performance. Ended up in the top five. Um, really just met all my goals. Wanted to get there. Take the new plane I wanted to do. Did that. Wanted to qualify solidly. Did that. Really wanted to put my two best flights up come top 20 day. I did that, and then I ended up uh, in the fourth spot to qualify, and top 5 day. I didn't put up my best flights, but hey, fifth is good. I'll take it. Definitely building blocks, but solid overall performance. And so high voltage number 11 really performed well. Um, More work to do on it though. I don't know that it was in its optimal trim yet, uh, but definitely performed well considering. But overall, a good experience. All right, so today, getting ready to put together a plane to take to the team trials. Really like to make the U.S. team, World Championships in Australia. Really like to be part of that if I can. So I'm really going to take my best weapon. I happen to have a Yusenko Shark Lips 2, which is a really good flying plane. It's the plane I flew in Poland. It's the plane I took to the team trials in Houston and, finished as the first alternate, only a few points out of making the team. And the other feature, it's a really good take apart, has a box already. Although my new high voltage is a take apart, I'd have to make a box, and I don't have the time to dedicate to making a box, and I got to practice. And so anyway, long story short, I'll be taking this Yusenko Shark, which to me, I like the way it flies. It's a good plane. Um, but so one of the things I got to do to it has an older Igor timer, first version Igor timer, and I do want to put the new Igor timer in. So I'm gonna show how I install the new Igor timer in the plane, and I'm also gonna show how to program it. So first thing I do is I'm gonna go through some steps through the box to make you familiar with it. Um, Gonna be using one of my spare ESCs to kind of show that, and I'll take you through the initial setup and the base setup on it. So we'll get going on that here in a second. I just got to move the camera for a little bit better angle so you can see from the top down and get a good view of the settings. All right, so back with the overhead view. So just making sure you guys can see it well. That's pretty good. All right, so here's the Jetty box, which you use to program it. Here's the non-pro Jetspin 66. And here is the new Max Timer uh, version 1 from Igor Berger. So we'll go through first things first. I'm using one of my spare ESCs to set it. So we do is so you got to check the ESC setting first. You take it and you put it in the bottom one with the three plugs in it. That's to read it. Okay, now to get power to the ESC, you got to use a battery. So I happen to have here a willpower, as we call it, willpower 6S 3000 milliampere lithium ion battery. Um, that's just plugged in, hooked up, and then I turn the switch on, and you come to this screen here. Hopefully, you can see this pretty well. Uh, so, right, controller type, hit the next one. You want to go to what it says manual settings, man settings here. Okay, and temperature 110, that's correct. Brake hard, yes. Heli 3D, 14 poles. That's what I'm using, 14 pole motor. Most motors are 14 poles. Gear 1 to 1. Max rotor RPM. Here, I'm going to set it 11,000, and I like the max at 11,000 and the minimum at 7,000. That's kind of the range I want. You can go up and down a little bit. Sensitivity needs to be set to 0, 1. Timing 15 degrees. 8 kilohertz frequency. Acceleration, I leave it 3 seconds. Um, Type lithium ion poly FE, I leave it like that. Number of cells, I always leave it in auto. You can set it to the number of cells. I just leave it in auto. Okay, so the next deal is voltage per cutoff. So now, if you're using LiPo batteries, you can get away with 3.2 or 3 volts per cell. But with the lithium ion, you got to go down to a low number. I set it to 2.6, which the manufacturer says you can go to. So these batteries set for to cut off at 2.6 volts per cell. That's just giving you the voltage reading you're sitting at. Cutoff slow down, initial point fixed, fixed initial point 1.25 milliseconds, endpoint 2, uh, auto endpoint off, linear, rotation left. Um, for me, typically it's been left when I front mount the motor and I hook up red to red, yellow to yellow, black to black seems to work. But this way you can swap the motor. If it's running in a reverse direction, you can come in here and just you can go like that, make it right rotation or left. But for me, it's always left. Uh, Timing monitor off, setting throttle RC off, and you're back to the main screen. So that's how you set the ESC to start this. All right. So now what I do is, so now we got to hook up the ESC, and you got to look at the channels you're on. Uh, so channels 1 and 4 is what I'm using. The other channels are for extra motor or retracts. I'm not using that. And what's important to know is that the ground always goes to the middle. So if you looked, there's a black wire here. That's always going to the middle terminal. For example, the ESC has a brown wire. Right, that has to go that way. So you end up flipping them opposite. If you notice, there's a yellow dot here. On Igor's, that's channel 1. That's so okay. Do that. Now I gotta hook it up to the jetty box. Okay. So now the timer's powered up and you get the first screen, which is max timer. Then it goes to the target throttle. This is your target RPM throttle. Delay time, flight time, 530. I usually fly 520. My preference. Sensitivity plus. Okay, see now this is where it stops. This is what they call basic mode. All his timers come in basic mode. If you this works very well. Set the target throttle, set the sensitivity you want, and it'll work. Um, okay. Okay. Now we want the expert mode in there. So what you do is, I'll do that again. So you go back to the, oops, you go back to the main screen here. It says max timer. You take both of the arrows and you push them at the same time. You end up with this enter code end. So I want to say it's 30, but let me double check. Where is my cheat sheet? All right, so there's a whole bunch of codes in here. Igor gives a pretty good description of a lot of it. Talks about how it's configurable. Okay, that's all I guess. Okay, one of the things talks about the factory codes and how to reset it. So if you buy the thing from Igor, ask him for this. But what is the timer by default is set in a value of 5, which is basic mode. That only allows the target throttle, delay, flight time, and sensitiveness. All right, all the other things are filled in automatically. Sensitivity, negative, corner drag, that's all configured in what they call basic mode. Now, if you want what we call the fully programmable excellent mode, you have to go to factory code 30. Okay, so you put in 30 and you push up. Okay, now target throttle, delay, time, sensitivity plus. sensitivity minus. It goes through a corner drag, compensation, radius. It goes for flight counter. It gives you how many flights, standard, lap, how many warnings, what it does during the warning. So now I have flown this plane already, and this plane is in what I'll say pretty good trim. Um, so I'm going to put some basic settings in it to start off with. You can easily overdo this. You can all ask me how I know it. I did it. I've done it. So target throttle 150, that's about right for the prop I'm running based on the RPM. That's about 96, 9700 RPM, which prop I'm turning will give me about a 5.2 lap, 5.3 lap. Delay time, yes. So sensitivity plus and minus. So on this, I'm going to start off with 10 and 10 with a minus to start. Now, what's nice about this is that if you want the sensitivity, if you want to be able to achieve the max RPM quicker, you move the sensitivity up. Going minus means when you turn down, it'll try to achieve that target RPM quicker. So I like the fact that you can split them. I tend to put a little more negative sensitivity because I want it to back off a little bit more. But some people don't like that. Corner drag compensation. So this is when you come out of a corner, you have a corner and the plane slows down because of the aerodynamical forces and drag. What it'll do is when you make this corner, it'll actually add RPM back and speed you up a little bit. Um, I'll set this to 5. You can easily overdo this and you come out and shoot you out like a rocket. So you don't want that. But corner drag of 5. I mean, you may want to start off at 0. I always recommend flying the plane for the first time. Start everything off at 0, fly it with no regulation on it, and then start adding regulation and adding these things and find out what you like. Corner radius. He recommends 60 or 70. This number basically determines the size of a radius of a corner. 70 is a pretty good number to start with. But again, it's all in his instructions. Just read through it. Um, Flight count is pretty self-explanatory. How many flights you got on it. Standard lap 5.2. This is really telling the timer how fast of a lap you fly to help with the next couple settings. So warning count, that means 2 laps out, I'll get a warning count. I like it to speed up. Some people like it to slow down. And I want it with 5.2 seconds left. Duration, I'm gonna set it for 5.2 seconds because I want the speed up and the warning power. I'm gonna set it at. I want it to fly faster than level. I'm gonna set it to 160. Safety lock is used. Set it on 0, 1. Again, read instructions. That's really if the plane won't start if it's upside down. The other neat feature is this asymmetry plus and minus. So this timer knows the position it's in. So you actually have to level the plane. I'm going to show you how I do that and actually install the timer. But it's reading it on X and Y axis, knowing if it's this way, that way, this way, or that way. So, for example, if you put it in the plane and it's not 100%, and you notice that, say, on outside maneuvers, it slows down faster, or inside, you can adjust this number by going plus or minus. What it does is it basically tilts the sensor. It tells it to offset it a little bit. So if you have power that comes on, for example, if you're coming in and you feel like any positive maneuver or any up maneuver has more punch in it, you can back this number down on the plus side and it'll help adjust some of it. Again, it's in the instructions. Motor throttle, diff motor 2, but we don't have second motor. So here, minimum throttle, this is looking where to set it to. Uh, so I leave it at 80 and I leave the max at 200. Um, this is for landing gear up and down. I don't use that on our retracts. Landing gear down has a bunch of features here. This is all around landing gear, emergency laps, home, and that's pretty much all. Start button. There's several different features which I'm not using. But in a nutshell, that's how you run through it. Again, the best way is to kind of use it, test it. A little does a lot here, so just be careful with it. Um, you can actually make the plane almost stop coming downhill, which I happen to like, but other people didn't think it was great. All right, so that's the basics. on the timer. Uh, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set it up in this plane. So I made up a little jig to kind of hold the plane with in level flight. Just put that over there. Put that over there. Alright. So I'm gonna mount the timer right here on this piece of plywood that I have sticking out. That's off. That comes off the mount here. So and the take apart hardware, I'm a that's gonna be parallel with level flight, nice square edge. So what I did was I glued it on with some epoxy. I used a 420 3M. This stuff's supposed to bond to steel, aluminum. Works pretty good. I scored up the aluminum brackets. These are aluminum. And a piece of 1/8 plywood. And what I'm going to do is mount this to here, like so. Right about there somewhere. But before I do that, what you want to do is, I don't know how you can see it, but I put a mark in the fuselage on both sides where level flight would be, front and back and the rear. Show you. On the back half of the fuse, there's also a mark here. So I know the heights of the stab and the wing center lines. They're equal. So if I line those up off my flat surface, that'll give me approximately what level flight should look like. So, all right, I gotta plug it in. There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Oh, there. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna temporarily tape this in place. And actually, what I gotta do, and I just thought about it, I actually have to set the ESC here. So hold on before I do any of this. All right, let me use the battery. All right, I gotta check the setting in the ESC and set that before I do anything. So how do you get a plug? Yeah. So I go through the settings here, 11,000, 6,500. Like that's okay. So the settings are good. Now we're gonna do. All right, so I'm just sneaking the wire. Just gotta sneak the wire through here so I can set. So get the timer wire through. Okay. All right. So I get the timer wire through now. That's for the adjustment of the timer. This wires here are for the ESC. I'm gonna leave them with the extension on it, so that if I have to program ESC, I can do it from here. I don't got it. There's just not a lot of room back here. I don't want to take it apart every time I gotta adjust something. All right, so now we're gonna set it up on the timer here. Hold on. Okay, put the ESC to channel 1, which is the channel with the yellow dot, and then the timer lead goes on channel 4 again, making sure the grounds are in the middle. Okay. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tape this on with a piece of Scotch tape for now, for just 1 second, because what I want to do is put the plane together and check the X and Y axis, and I'll show you. So I have double stick tape on the timer. So once I'm sure about the position of it, uh, so what you want to do is hold it on nice and tight, just like it would be held on. I just want to make sure if you see it's just held on. Just using a piece of Scotch tape to hold it in position. I'm going to check the position, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, I'm going to turn it on. The timer works. See? Okay, now again, I go to the first screen here, and I hit them both arrows out. I get enter code. You're going to go to code. Oops, sorry, wrong button. You want to go to code 74. I'll show you what 74 does. And each one of these codes does something, so you can look them up. 74, and then you push up. So you see here, it talks about roll and pitch. So you can see it. If I go like that, see the number change. That's the sense you're trying to read a position in the sense roll and pitch. So what you want to do is get those both to 0 when you set it up here. And that's what we're going to do next here. So I'll take that out. Okay. All right, now I got to put the two halves together. I'll reposition the camera a little bit so I can kind of get what I'm looking to get here on to show you the kind of how I'm setting this up. So it's nice. This is a take part, kind of helps you um, do this a little bit. If it wasn't a take apart, you'd have to level the plane. I've done it. You put them inverted. You level off. You basically put the wings at zero incidence, so you level off so it's at level flight, and then you set the sensor in. And if you got the mount perfect, it goes right in with zero. If you don't, sometimes you got to shim it, and usually takes a couple pieces of tape. For example, with high voltage 11, I had to use one piece of masking tape to get it to be perfect. So just give me a second. But the take apart plane, a little bit of a challenge, but I kind of figured out how to do it. Just bolt it together. All right, so now it's in fuselage in one piece. All right, so what I set up yesterday was a little bit of a stand. Let me just see if I can move the camera down so you can see. All right, that's the best view I'm going to get. All right, so what we want to do. So right now I have it set up on two blocks here, these two aluminum blocks, and the take apart plane. I'm using the take apart hover as this. That's level with the wing, or it's a datum point on the wing. Now what I do is put it on these blocks, and then I'm going to do shim the nose to get the height right. And I got my height gauge here already set to put it on the mark. There's a mark on the side of the fuse here, that mark I showed. And I come back here. We're a little bit off, so I got to come up with the fuselage a little bit. A little too high. Let's see. Okay, pretty close. Okay, let me just check the other side. And again, this height gauge is pretty cool. Dan Winship, if you watch one of his videos, he shows how to make it. This one was made for me from my buddy Tom Smelter. So Tom, thanks. Not only did Tom make this for me, but this is also Tom Sharp that he's loaned me somewhat indefinitely. So thanks, Tom. All right. So now, all right, I got the lead out. All right, put the battery in, so hopefully it doesn't. Just check the height again. And move it up a bit. I gotta get this. Okay. And just check both sides, but yeah. All right, so now we want to see how we're doing with the X and Y. So again, come to the first screen, push those two out there. Code 74 is what I want. Okay, roll is 0, 0, 0, and pitch is -2. So let's see. Just want to see, I believe that means. Hold on, let me just reset this here. Gosh. Okay, so it's showing -2, which means it thinks level flight is here somewhere. So it means I'm tipping up the sensor this way. So what I gotta do is I gotta lower the front of the sensor. Yes. So what I'll do is I'll take some tape and I'll build it up on the inside of the sensor and I'll tip the sensor this way a little bit. It's amazing how much it takes to get it to go back to 0. So if you look there, that's what I would say level datum line or level flight line. And I got to move it a good half an inch. So that would definitely set off the flight characteristics to be different. Okay. So now we're going to shim it. And it's probably only a few thousand shim. Don't laugh. It's not much. All right. I've got to break the fuse in half again. Now I know it's -2, so what I'm gonna do is in order to get it right, I know that I need to be different by 2. So I'm gonna set it back on here with the back half of with the back of the fuse off to get it close. I was really hoping that it would go right in first time and be perfect, but it's not today. Not my yuck. I also have a Charat Raptor that I got that I need to install the electronics in. So I'll show it again on that as well, but I'll also show you how to put one of those together. So now I know if I set it somewhat similar to that, just test my theory here. Gotta line up black to black. Okay. Okay, so that's telling me, so back in 0 roll 2. So I'm right back in the same spot. So that's pretty good. I can also tell that by pushing this up to the nose and seeing where it sits. Because I know the height of that, and so I can kind of cheat a little bit. There's there, and this should be, the thrust line is a 1/4 inch higher, which is about right. Perfect. Okay, so now what I gotta do, so we're gonna tip the sensor down. So what I'm gonna do is I got some masking tape. Okay, so one piece of tape gives me minus 0, 1, 0, 2. You see it's changing. Okay, almost there. So it looks like it's gonna be about 3 pieces of tape. So if you look, 0 perfect. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll peel the double stick tape and stick it on for good. And again, so what's nice is I'll sit here and do this. And let's just say the plane doesn't fly at that attitude perfectly. It's really just a minor adjustment in the timer at that asymmetry setting where you can go plus or minus and then it'll dial it right in so it's even. Um, but what I could say is I've put in 2 of these timers in planes already. Um, one was dead on, where I had to do nothing, and the green high voltage number 11, I had to use some of that asymmetry number to make it balanced. Although it was set right, it must not have flown at the exact same position as I set it. So, but it was pretty easy to adjust in the ESC. Um, and how do you know? It's pretty evident in the round eights it shows up. At least for me, it was pretty easy to tell when I do a round eight, which there's a come on and off in the same place at the same time, both inside and outside maneuvers. That's how I figured out. I'm sure others have different ways, but all right. So Here we go. Sticking it on. So you see, there it is, 0, 0. It's exactly what you want. Zero roll, meaning this way it's good, that way it's good. So, all right, and that's how you set up the Igor new timer. Uh, the trick is being able to find a way to level the plane off so that you're happy with it. You feel it's in somewhat level flight. Uh, just check the settings in it. And again, target throttle, that's your level lap RPM. I'm using a 12.5 narrow, Igor narrow prop, three-bladed prop, and the target throttle 150 is about 9,700, 9,800 RPMs. I'd have to look. But that's going to give me on 64-foot lines, that's going to give me about a 5.2, 5.3 lap, depending on temperature. So go up and down a little bit. The late time I use 40 always. I fly 5 minutes and 20 seconds. You can fly whatever you want. Um, Again, sensitivity plus, I'm going to start out with 10. Um, Honestly, I've used as much as 30 on this number. Um, on the high voltage plane, I'm somewhere around 20, but start out with 10 is a good number to start with. And again, if you're trimming a plane for the first time, you're going to set this at 0. You're going to set all these things at 0 until the plane is in somewhat good trim, because if it's not, any any hinging or anything that's off is going to make the timer do stuff that it's not supposed to. So I'm going to put the minus at 10 as well, start there. The corner drag, I want the 5. Corner radius, 70 is good. Flight counter, this is nice. Let's show how many flights you got. 5.2 lap. I'm going to have it come on the last 5 seconds of it, and it's going to come on for 5 seconds, and it's going to speed up a little bit. Now, your choices are you can have it do as many times as you want. You can have it blip, 0.5. You can slow down. You can speed up. You can have it kind of set it the way you want. For me, I like it when it speeds up as it carries a little more speed into the landing, especially with FAI rules. It'll allow you to get that good glide path for one full lap. But again, this is all preference stuff. All right, and we're pretty much good. So minimum throttle set at 80, and again, this is really where that sensitivity comes in. It's going to want to get to that 8 number, which is probably about 8,500 or so. I'd have to check. It's going to try to achieve that RPM as quick as possible based on the sensitivity settings. And max throttle is 200. In this case, would be 11,000. It's going to try to achieve 11,000 RPMs when the nose goes up. Okay. All right. So that's kind of how you set it up, kind of how it works. Hopefully hopefully this video helps and you enjoy it. All right. All right. So that's kind of how I set it up. Hopefully you found that educational or useful. I did get a couple of questions from some folks about it. But Igor Burger, really great stuff. This is the next level of timer. It is very adjustable. I almost laugh. I think you can almost dial every leg of a horizontal square 8 in to your liking. But again, it's trial and error, some testing on it. You got to use it a bunch of times and figure it out. And everybody likes things differently. Mm. Somebody flew my plane after Nats, and they said they couldn't believe the shutdown. It was way too much. It was too much shutting down. Um, and I know what the person's talking about, but I was able to fly decently with it. But I'm going to try some different things as well. Probably shut down a little too much. Probably slowed down a little too much, but so be it. All right, so I'm going to get out here and test fly this over the weekend. And this is the plane I'm going to take to the team trials. This one and I'm gonna put together. I have a Charette Raptor. I'm gonna put that together. I may do a quick video on how to, when you get one from him, some of the things you got to do to get it ready to fly. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Um, if you're subscribed, like it, tell your friends, have them subscribe. The more information we share, the better we're all gonna be. So thanks everyone, and we'll talk.